How's it going, everybody? And as always, welcome back to Continues to Tick, the dividend investing journey that I've been playing with since July 2020. It's been a journey. It's been a couple years now, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. I think some of you guys have been here since the very beginning. I don't know how many, but maybe some of you have. And we've gotten up to a pretty good view base. Getting a decent amount of views per video, which tells me that there's people on this journey with me. And it feels good to not be alone, because in the day-to-day, I don't know many dividend investors, but here online, there's a lot of us. But with that intro out the way, friends, as you see, we've reached once again another monthly dividend portfolio review, this time for April 2024, and the journey just continues. And as always with these monthly portfolio updates, I go a little bit more in depth than I typically do and on my other videos. I'm going to tell you how much I fund my portfolio and how often. I'll go into my sector allocations and percentages, along with sharing with you some of my best and worst performers per each sector. I'll also go over the number of current holdings that I have in my dividend portfolio, as well as my current dividend portfolio's yield and also the expense ratio. And then at some point in the video as well, in these monthly reviews, I like to share for the portfolio, for my retirement, and my career development. I like to just share the plans with you, because if you don't put your goals out there, right, you're not really intentionally trying to achieve them. You have to write it on paper, put it out there, put it in your mind often. That's how you accomplish and complete and reach goals, at least in my headspace of thought. And of course, friends, in these videos, I always share with you how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. And I highlight that because I think that's the most interesting part. Wouldn't you agree? It's that passive income pillow. The main thing that we're all working towards as a dividend investor is that stream of income, whether you use it now while you're working or later on in retirement. But let's go, friends. Let's start off with the portfolio, just like we have been more recently. And if you look at the timestamps down below, you can jump around in the video and look for the sections that maybe you're most interested in. And at the very end, today's topic is going to be about career development and just sharing with you my journey about how I go about developing my own career, how I've been doing it. And I'm going to start back from high school all the way up until now, 5 years now in the workforce, over 5 years. But it's an interesting story. Maybe you can relate to some of it. Maybe some of it is helpful, but that'll be at the end. But as you can see here, friends, it's the Jesse's Cash Flow Portfolio. At some point, I wanted to change the name, but I realized that if I change it, people might think it's a different portfolio. So when I started it, I just named it Jesse's Cash Flow, and it's been the same since. But we're at $78,799.77. And when I look on YouTube, I don't see many people sharing their actual journey, on this dividend path, right? Being very transparent. I don't have much to hide. I'm a nurse by trade. This is my investing strategy of choice. And I'm just, showing you my transparent investing strategy happen over time. I've chosen the dividend strategy, and I've just been documenting my journey. And I think it's fun. I think it's fun to be able to relate, to be able to share. It's all here. Look at all the videos that I've been posting. It's been a journey, to say the least. And as you can see here on the chart, this is the all-time chart view. We started back on July 19th here, it says, but July 2020 is when I first put some funds in here. And ever since then, I've been funneling funds into this thing, just pushing that rock up the hill, right? At some point, you'll probably see, in the future, it won't be growing as quick as it has been, once retirement hits, but who knows, right? It'll be really fun to see that graph a couple decades in, just to see what it looks like. But this is what it's supposed to look like if you're doing something right. And as you can see here down here in the statistical part of the chart, it says a money weighted rate of return for my portfolio is 36.69%. I'm not a big fan of the money weighted rate of return. Whenever I go onto my M1, app itself, it does have a different chart, like different set of statistics, and I like those better because it tells you all time, monthly, year to date. It tells you the actual percentage return, not the money weighted rate of return, which takes other things into account, but take that as you will. It says a market gain of $10,013 is what I've seen all time, with all time earned dividends over about 4 years now, or close to about 4 years now, of $5,376. I mean, is that 4 years? Let's see, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. This year will be 4 years. Just had to do some quick math. I confused myself. And let's go to the 1 year. It says a market gain of $6,000. But the one thing that I find most interesting that I want you to take a look at is this dividend earned, right, amount. So all time, it was $5,000. 1 year, over the last 365 days, it was $2,185. Year to date, we're approaching May, it's $592. Over the last 3 months, $514. This last month, $126 in dividends. And let's see, over the last week, $9.86. So that's the number that I think matters the most, at least to the majority of us here as dividend investors, is getting an idea of how much passive income we're getting, these dividend payouts that we're getting from our portfolios. So over the last 3 months, $500. It'd be nice to see this continue to increase, right? That's the overall plan here. So let me switch it back to the all-time view. Let's go down here to our sector allocations. And let's see, I'm just going to do it by my biggest. So starting with real estate. Real estate is at 13% of my portfolio, and it continues to decrease from here. I like real estate. I wish I could own it in real life, but it just, the timing and where I'm at in my life, it doesn't align quite yet. I like the freedom of renting. There's a lot of benefits to renting. My girlfriend has a business and she can write off some of it here because she's renting. And there's other benefits to it, like mobility. We could just move, at any time practically, and it's a lot easier than having to sell your home. But eventually I do want to get into real estate, but I'm in no rush for now. Consumer staples, I have it at 12% as a sector. Have my ETF and my index fund. My ETF, it does PYD if you're curious. I'll show you that here. And then my index fund, it's VIG Vanguard if you're curious as well. And then we have tech here set at 10%, utilities at 10%, financials at 9%, industrials, healthcare, communications, energy, materials, and consumer discretionary, which is McDonald's. It's the only one I have in there. But as you can see here, the decreasing amount in percentage when it comes to sector allocations. And as far as my best performers, or my best performing sector, we have tech here at 236%. And if you just click on it for a second, I already know it's going to be NVIDIA, because NVIDIA's been going wild. 874%, $6,000 gain. I have an actual amount of this sector of tech is 53%. That means 53% of my tech gain is from NVIDIA. And I set it at 28%. So it's just been running rampant. I've sold a chunk actually last year to go to Greece, about $2,000. But I sold it just to have a little bit more money, going to Greece. Going to Greece was a big deal for me. At that point, I decided it was better to live life than to, watch my portfolio number go up. And, that was a personal choice. It was definitely worth it for sure. Lifetime memories. And after tech here, you can see energy as my next best performer, followed by financials, industrials, consumer discretionary, and it goes on and on. And my worst performer is healthcare. It's kind of funny. I'm a nurse though. I believe in healthcare. Sometimes this sector goes up, oftentimes it goes down, but sometimes it stays flat. But Pfizer is down 45%, Medtronic down 25%, and Johnson & Johnson is also in the red. So that explains that. But I still believe in healthcare, and I think it's important to have it. I only have it at 7% of my portfolio. It all balances out at the end. And if you're curious, friends, like you want to see my portfolio a little bit more in detail, you want to explore it at your own leisure. I know I only cover so much in these videos. There's always a link in my description box. It's free. You can click on it. Look at my M1, pie. Click on the sectors. Look into the holdings that I have and just get ideas. I know when I first started my dividend portfolio, that's what I would do. I never copied anybody's actual portfolio. I just got ideas and, saw what some people were holding, did my own research, did more of my own research, and it does help. It does help to kind of get ideas, but ultimately, this is the pace. This is what I'm comfortable with. This is why I have the holdings that I have, and this is why I set up my portfolio the way I did, is I enjoy it. I enjoy holding it myself, holding individual holdings, as opposed to just having an index fund or ETF. Sometimes it's fun, I think, to hold like Nvidia, for example, right? And just watch it just boom, it's fun. Maybe some of you guys can relate to that. And as far as some activity, my funding schedule at the moment, friends, continues to be $100 every week. If you were here since the very beginning of this journey, right, when I was a fresh new grad and like just really investing heavy, I was investing $500 every week. $500. And I want to get to that place again. I've been 5 years into the workforce now, and I've been investing more in career development so that way I can increase my income, in a few years from now. I'm 28 right now. I'll be 29 later this year. My goal is in my early 30s to be making a lot more money than what I make now, and later on into my life continue to make more. I'm noticing that my biggest source of income comes from my career. So I need to invest into that part of my life so I can eventually get a bigger shovel and really just attack this thing, right? Get into real estate. My ceiling, at least for now, will always depend on my primary source of income, which is my career, which is my nursing career. So I went back to school, got my master's, and a little bit later in the video, I'll explain a little bit more of that journey when I talk about my story of career development, just to give you that little snippet there. So $100 every single week for now, that's where I'm at. And that's a slower pace than what I'm used to, but I'd rather put a drop in the bucket consistently every single week than to stop investing entirely. And sometimes it's just going to take adjustments like that. A dividend journey takes decades. Sometimes you're not going to be able to just blitz this thing and go heavy. You're going to have to pull back at certain parts of your life, when certain things happen. So just keep that in mind. I had to learn that myself. It was hard. I've gotten better, but I've realized that, hey, I just got to set it to automatic. $100, easy peasy, right? You don't even think about it anymore. And as far as dividend activity, just to give you some examples, here's Sempra paying me almost $8. Here's Avalon paying me $16. O paying me $10. Here's another $100 funnel, which I funnel every week. Medtronic was taking a hit because it was in the red, but it pays me a good dividend, right? For like $14.50. And then you got SX, like a REIT, paying me $17. Philip Morris, people can have their opinions on that, but I have it in here. It's $12. And I did sell 2 positions here. I didn't really care about it. I talked about it in my last video. And then Chubb, give me a payout here as well. And then you can see a couple buys in here weekly, from the funding that I put in. So that happens. And let's see, as far as what my holdings reflect, it says I have a cost basis of $69,890.72. You can see a little peek here at the number of positions that I hold, which is 51. And you can see the value, right? My cost basis plus my unrealized gain of $8,909, which means my portfolio is up 12.75% as a whole. And that's how the first chart used to reflect my gain. Just giving you a nice simple number like this, not that money weighted rate of return. Just telling me straight up, hey, your portfolio is up almost 13% all time. I like that better. And let's see, friends, right? We're a couple months into the year. You could see, right? I told you, when I first started this portfolio in July, I was blitzing this thing. I was funding $500 every single week. You could see that my best year was 2021, where if you do the math, $500 every week times 52 weeks equates to $26,000 for the year. I blitzed it that year. $26,000 went into my dividend portfolio here, this Jesse's cash flow portfolio. And then I decreased it in 2022 because I started going back to school. And then in 2023, I was still in school. And now in 2024, well, I'm out of school, but life continues to happen. And I'm investing a lot now in personal growth. I'm going to therapy, individual therapy once a week, and couples therapy once a week. That's a lot of therapy. That's a lot of money. But I'm planting the seeds, investing in myself, investing in my relationship, just like I used to invest in this dividend portfolio. And I think just like investing in yourself in this portfolio, both will pay dividends as time goes on. Trust me, friends. If you haven't done therapy, think about it. I'm going to throw that nugget in there every once in a while. All right, so now we're in a different area, the portfolio statistics. This is the Jesse's cash flow all time. But the main thing we're looking for here is showing you my holdings, my dividend yield, and my expense ratio. You saw a little preview on that other screen. I do have 51 holdings in my portfolio. I've mentioned it a couple times in my videos as to why I hold that many. You can always comment down below and ask me. I'll respond. And as far as my dividend yield, I have 3.358% at the moment, which I'm content with. Anywhere between like 2.8%, maybe 3.3. Right now it being 3.3, getting closer to 3.4-ish. I'm okay with that. I know I've gotten comments where, hey, just put it in a high yield savings account. Well, sure, for now. But the fact is that also changes, right? I'm not going to do that. I'm thinking about stock appreciation and holding an actual asset as opposed to just putting this money in cash and holding it in a bank. And sure, the interest rate's higher, but it won't always be higher, right? For me, I think of holding an asset, which is a stock. That's my rationale for that. And as far as my expense ratio, 0.01%, which is very, very small, but that's because I do manage this thing on my own and I enjoy it. I enjoy that aspect of creating my own pie, managing it myself, and it's very low maintenance. It's been very low maintenance since the beginning. You don't have to make this very complicated. Set it, forget it, touch base with it, look it up. Every time I make these videos, I intentionally think about my portfolio, but also look at it at least once a week. But it is very low maintenance. So let's see. So my current short and long-term plans for the portfolio. My short-term plan, friends, is just to continue to fund $100 every single week. I'm going to likely do that for this year. I'm going to do it for the remainder of this year and probably, honestly, friends, for like the next 2 years. I got a new job opportunity that I'm going to take, and because it's going to involve a pay cut, even though it is a job promotion, right? Like it's a job that I needed my master's for. I'm planting a seed, right? Going to do this job for the next 2 years to gain experience that is then required to get a much higher paying job. But because of that, I'm going to have to continue to manage my finances quite wisely. And like I said, I pay a lot of money right now in therapy, so I'm investing in other areas of my life. So for the moment, $100 every single week is going to be the strategy, at least for the rest of this year and probably for the next 2 years after this year. And we'll just play it by ear. If I get a little bit more money, I'll adjust it, but $100 is always going to be my bare minimum. That is my line that I really try hard to hold. So that's about $400 or $433 a month. And then I know I get $2,000 back dripped into my dividend portfolio for the moment. And I guess that is one thing I don't mention. I do drip my portfolio's dividend payouts. I put those right back in. And I just paid my taxes this last year, and I actually still got a refund. So, come tax time, I still haven't been getting screwed over with having my dividends, paying me in a taxable account. We'll see, what happens as the future goes on, but I also hope to be making more money as the future goes on. And as far as my long-term plans, it's still to retire at the age of probably 52 now, because this next job that I got, the retirement pension formula adjusts a little bit. Right now I work in the state prison. I'm considered a safety member, working as a nurse in a prison. If I leave the prison, I'm still working for the state of California, but now my earliest retirement year adjusts from 50 to 52 because of the formula that I'll be in. So 52, retiring with my pension, retiring with medical full, right? Just like I have it now. Those are things that I hope to have in the long term. And eventually, of course, friends, getting into real estate, I'll always throw that in there. But man, it's expensive, isn't it? It's very expensive. And now, friends, of course, for the highlighted section here, how much my dividend portfolio currently pays me in dividends. All right, friends. As you can see, $78,799.76, 77 cents on M1. It's practically the same, which is really close. Sometimes I always miss a couple numbers as I have to do this manually. I miss a couple numbers and it's off. So it's actually really close right now, which is awesome. because it'll give you a more accurate representation. But as you can see, my annual dividend income for the moment is $2,489.78. You break this down to a monthly, it's $207. Break this down to a daily, $6.82. And my dividend yield, according to the Div Tracker app here, is 3.16%. And let's scroll down a little bit. And it says my annual dividend income goal, it's almost there. It says $2,489 out of my $2,500. It says 100% reached. Not quite there though. And it says if I invest $286, I'll be reaching this goal. So I'm actually looking very forward to that. I'll probably make a milestone video on it, because $2,500 of dividend income, that to me was a long road coming, and it is a pretty big deal. If you're curious, I know I didn't mention it, this is the Div Tracker app on the Apple Store. Alright friends, and let's continue to scroll down here. So at the very end of the video today, this is the topic. I want to just touch on a little bit, share with you a little bit of my journey of career development and what my journey of getting into the workforce, being in the workforce, has looked like. Let me get a sip of coffee first. Life tip, drink your coffee black. Anyways, friends, so starting back, right? High school. Let me talk to you about high school version of me. For me, friends, for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a police officer. Senior year came around, I thought about it more. My mom's like, hey, do you really want to do this? My dad talked me into almost not wanting to do it, right? Because he's like, hey, can you actually pull the trigger on somebody, if you had to? And, I had to think about it very deeply, is what I'm trying to say. And I came to the realization that I actually don't, want to live that lifestyle. Fully respect law enforcement, but man, that is a very tough gig. And then I worked in the county jail later, and which I'll touch on. And, I'm glad that I made this decision instead. So I decided to become a nurse my senior year of high school. Upon graduation, I had to pick a career, so I chose nursing. I knew that, it was about 4 years of an investment, right, to get into a program and graduate and get into the workforce. And the amount of money I would make in exchange for that investment of that time, I knew would be worth it. I saw that nurses were making a good amount of money, and they can work in many different areas. So I decided to become a nurse, back upon graduating high school. In college, my journey was I started at a community college. I lived at home. I saved a lot of money by doing that. I took all my prerequisite courses that I needed to get into a nursing program. I did a CNA program, got good grades, really focused. And the funny thing is, in high school, I could really care less, but I was always very smart, right? But I could care less about grades. I knew I was going to go to a community college anyway, so I was like, whatever, And college came around and I really dialed in and I really focused, and I got A's in every class except chemistry. And it was with that GPA then I was able to get into a good 4-year nursing program and got my bachelor's degree at one of the state universities here in California. And I graduated with my nursing degree 2.5 years later, right? I think right at the age of 24, like 23 and a half, turning 24. And, from there, friends, that's when you're a new grad, right? You graduate college, you're a new grad, you're thinking about getting into the workforce. And that's when I decided as a nurse, I didn't want to work in a hospital. I wanted to do something different. Tying back, right, me mentioning law enforcement, I was like, well, hey, I'm not a police officer, but I can work around them. I can work in the same environment, work with the same, population. Let me go work in a county jail. And it was the perfect spot for me. I worked in the county jail. The way I thought of it is, I'm not the one wearing the badge, but I'm around the people that do. I'm around that same chaos and that energy, that hostile environment. I was all up in that, all up in that. And I did that for 6 months. And right when I applied for that county job, I also applied for state prisons, because when I was working at the county jail, I was more like a contractor. I wasn't getting any county benefits. So I knew I had to leave, right, whenever the next opportunity came. And 6 months later, after being in the workforce, that opportunity came. And I got an offer working for one of the state prisons here in California, very good benefits, pension plan, all that stuff. And I took that opportunity. And I've been working at the state prison ever since. And I've been here for practically 5 years now. It'll be 5 years in September, which means I've been in the workforce for 5 years, a little bit over 5 years, counting both places of employment. And about 2 years in, or 2.5 years in to being in the workforce, that's when I went back, right? I skipped one here, but bear with me. I'll highlight it here. Workforce, boom, got that done. Graduate school, boom, here we are. So in graduate school, I went back after 2.5 years in the workforce. I realized as a nurse, that there were certain pathways. I could be a floor nurse, I could stay a floor nurse forever, but I want to make more money, just to be honest with you guys. And I saw that there were certain nurse consultant positions working for the state of California that they can make a lot of money. As a floor nurse, my max would be $130,000. Right now I'm maxed out already, being 5 years in. But as a nurse consultant, the max is like $185,000. And I knew one day I need to get to that job. I knew that about, a year in, and then 2.5 years into the workforce, I was like, well, let me just go back to school then. Because to get a position as a nurse consultant, it required, certain experience, but it also required a master's degree. So I went back to school, got my master's degree, graduated last year. Probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. Because if you thought school was hard, just being a student while working full time and being a working professional and having a partner, trying to balance out your life in the middle of COVID, it was chaos. It was horrible. I hated every part of it. And if it wasn't for my partner, I probably would have quit at least like twice. But I stuck through. My partner helped me stick through. And, I appreciate her so much for that. But I graduated. Now I have my master's degree. And now I'm waiting for this next job opportunity as an entry-level nurse consultant, which for me means, taking a pay cut. But it's that experience of being a nurse consultant. Even though it's entry level, I can flip that experience in 2 years holding that title, right? I just need the title, flip that, and then apply for one of the higher paying nurse consultant positions. So for me, friends, that is my trajectory. It's all intentional. If I had to zoom out and tell you what's the whole purpose of everything I just said over the last few minutes here, right? About telling you my career journey, this development story, take this, friends. Be intentional. Don't waste time. Find the path that you need and go for it. And if you need to make adjustments along the way, adjust. Don't get stuck somewhere. At least for me, I could have just been a floor nurse, maxed out at 130, worked, more than 2 years, worked a decade and a half, and then decided, hey, I actually want one of those positions. But no, I saw it early on because I knew it existed after I saw it. And after I saw it, knew it existed, I was like, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do everything I can right now to try to get one of those spots because I want to make more money. I want my shovel to be bigger. I want a higher quality of life, right? In those positions, you get to work from home, you make more money, you travel a little bit. But man, that is where I'm headed. And I just want to tell you that is like a journey that I'm going through. So be intentional is what I'm trying to say. Be systematic with your approach. Don't just take your career as it comes. Be in the driver's seat of your career. It's very important. Otherwise, time's just going to pass you by and maybe it's kind of late, right? Sometimes you have to be ready for these opportunities to strike on them when they present. Because the last thing you want to do is have an opportunity come across your desk and you're just not ready, right? You see it and you're not ready, or you don't even see it at all, so you miss it. But enough with the pep talk. I just wanted to share with you guys, my mindset on the journey of career development and why I think it's important, as you navigate right from high school to college to new grad to workforce and then even maybe graduate school, why it's important to be intentional. Just like being a dividend investor. Dividend investing is a journey, it's a story unfolding, and your career should be as well. Maybe you'll see over time, my lifestyle increase, and a lot of that will be dependent on my primary shovel, which is my primary source of income, aka my career. But enough of that story, friends. Thank you once again for watching another video. I'll be here every 2 weeks. We're going to hit that milestone very soon of $2,500 in terms of dividend payouts for the year, and that would be a really good milestone. So stay tuned for that. We'll hit it here soon, and I'll show you probably on the next video. And as always, friends, Allow time to pass, but utilize it to your advantage. And I'll see you on the next one.